Welcome to Two Bottles Deep. We're a podcast where we venture into the world armed with humor, sarcasm, and a willingness to admit when we're wrong. Well, most of the time.
And our goal is to have open and honest conversations while we discuss topics that affect us as humans and as gay men.
And thank you so much for listening. And now it's time to get Two Bottles Deep. Hello, Wes.
Hey, Phil.
How are you, babe?
I'm great. I don't know what's happening. I never know how to start a show.
Yep. You've only been doing it 4 years.
4 years.
No need to start now.
It is a muggy day out there.
Here we go.
You know,
I
go with the weather. But I'll tell you what, we're going to jump into today's episode because together we can make
this is not a political message.
It is better. I was talking to a friend recently who was sharing a very interesting story about coming out gay after getting out of a straight marriage. And we wanted to talk more about this. I respect this guy. I love this guy. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's common for guys in our community to come out later in life. In fact, I think 39% of us do come out in our 20s or later, which sometimes means that they were in opposite sex relationships.
Yep. And that's true because 12% of adults say they've been in an opposite sex marriage before coming out.
Not me.
To be clear.
Yeah.
Not Philip. Yeah. And today is the day that we get to welcome our buddy Justin to the TBD studio.
Justin!
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good, babe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Like I said, it's Sunday. I got up. I rolled out of bed. I rolled to my counter here, and I'm on the podcast with you guys. So
you are nailing life right now.
That's winning. That's winning.
Winning.
Yeah. I had a face mask on for 3 hours this morning. And
really?
He rolls in fresh, and I look like this, and he's looking so fresh.
What time did you get up to have a face mask on for 3 hours? It's 10 a.m.
5. Yeah, I get up. I get up so early, and then I chill, and then anyway, enough about me.
Is it?
On this episode, we're going on the routine of the face mask. Mm-hmm. Justin, I'll tell you what, y'all. Justin is a pillar in the community here. I've learned a lot of business stuff from him. He's just an amazing person. It's just so great to have you here, Justin.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have only been lobbying to be a guest on the show for 4 years. So thank you for you finally waved the white flag and let's just put this guy on the show.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
Seriously. So stop asking me.
Yeah, he's gay now, so he can be on.
Right. The day you came out, we were like, he's interesting now.
Yeah, I like him. Not so much before.
Yeah.
Hey, growing up in the did you grow up in the South?
I've grown up. I grew up in and around Nashville, suburban Nashville. I was born in the deep South, where there are still Amish people that ride and horse and buggies.
Wait a minute, where were you born?
Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Wait a minute.
I go to those Amish houses.
You know my connection with Lawrenceburg.
No, I do not.
That's where all my family's from.
No way.
Yes, Brass Lantern. Are you kidding me? Lunch?
Yes.
Yeah.
My parents used to get drunk at the Brass Lantern and put me in the booth, and I would watch them drink Miller Lite till they couldn't walk, and then we would take the Amish buggies home.
Do you know the Hedricks?
I don't know, but I haven't lived there. I haven't lived there since I was 8. So we moved away from there when I was pretty young, but my family's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
my grandfather was the principal of Lawrence County High School for a long time.
Stop it.
His face is still on the wall. It's a mural. It's famous.
What's his name?
Oscar.
All right. I'll have to ask my parents because mom went to Lawrenceburg High. Yeah.
I mean, he would have been principal there in the early 70s, probably.
Yeah. I don't do math well. So my mom went there sometime before 1900 or after 1900. I think
sometime between 1900 and today. She was a student there. Yeah.
Okay. Throws it down.
All right. So you're in Lawrenceburg, and at this point, are you realizing that you have tendencies of thinking about men? Are you thinking you're like me, where I was like, I'm just bisexual because I'm so cultured?
No, because I was 8. I don't think I was still. I don't think that the first time that I can remember thinking that I was probably in 10, 11, 12, something like that. I remember there was this kid, and I don't remember his name, but I had the biggest crush on him in the 6th grade, and he had a really bad perm, but it was the 80s, and so whatever, everybody had a big bad perm. I was trying to dress like Kirk Cameron with the t-shirt and the open button up shirt, you know. So that's the first time that I can remember, and I actually can remember approaching my parents about, because I thought it was, you know, I was like, this is weird. It doesn't, it's not, one of these things is not like the other. And like, I don't feel, but you know, to their true parenting skills, they're like, you just like him as a friend. And I was like, okay, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
So it wasn't a negative reaction.
No, but I'm sure in their very Southern minds that they were like, their minds started twirling, like, oh, okay, we need to course correct him probably a little bit. So, but yeah, and then obviously it grew from there. But I grew up in the South. Like I grew up in the deep South, right? Like we love my family, and I love my family. So if they ever hear this podcast, I will have to repeat, I love you. I was being funny. This is funny. I was being funny. But they love their guns. They love Jesus. They love hunting, and they love, you know, all the things that true Southern families love. And there was no room to be different, you know, when I was growing up like that. There just was no room. And I grew up in a cul-de-sac, and across the street lived my aunt and uncle, and they had 3 boys, cousins, and then there were 3 boys in our family. And so we terrorized every person in that neighborhood for 10 years until we all grew up and moved away. And they were like, thank God they're gone.
It's clear now.
Right. You can put your stuff back out because they won't vandalize it. But so there was no, and you know, it was, we were all 6 of us were close. Like, and there just wasn't room. Like there just wasn't room to be different.
Was church involved?
Yes. So I grew up Southern Baptist.
You can't dance or listen to music or nothing, can you?
I do both those things. So there are many more reasons. There are many more reasons that I might go to not heaven, but it won't be just because I'm gay. Like there's already a list. Like I already had the list before I ever said I'm gay. Like I was like, well, I mean, you know,
just double down on that one.
Yeah, just double down on it. Yes. So Southern Baptist. My family is actually Church of Christ. So not only can you not dance or listen to music, you can barely speak to each other, and you know, it is very strict Church of Christ. I remember I was singing in a choir. This is like in my 20s probably. It's not at a Church of Christ church, and I told my great grandmother, who rest her soul has passed away, and she said, "Well, maybe you'll come around one day." And I was like, I'm freaking singing in a choir.
Yeah.
Like, but it was not a Church of Christ choir, and there was a band. And so because there were instruments, we were going to Hades.
Oh, that's right. Church of Christ, you can't use.
What do you do in a band then?
There's no band.
You just sing.
Yeah.
No, there is no sing. There is a I forget what they call him, but there's like a song leader. A song leader, and he's
all my soul for thee is yearning. That's how it goes.
We've got and God rest her soul, my aunt passed away last week. She'd been sick for a long time. Like it was, you know, it was expected. But she is very strict Church of Christ. And I looked at my parents Friday and I was like, I'm gonna have to listen to them sing, aren't I? And my mom was like, yeah, and you're gonna sing along with them. And I was like, they're gonna stand up there and you know, okay, fine, it's fine.
So at what point did you meet your wife?
So we knew each other in high school. We did not date each other in high school, but we did know each other. We ran in the same circle of friends. And then in college, so I was pretty wild in high school. I know that's hard to believe, the angel that I am, that I would have any sort of devilish streak in me, but I was pretty wild, and she was very good. And so we couldn't date in high school because she couldn't handle me. And then in college, I, believe it or not, calmed down somewhat from, I know it's shocking. And she loosened up, and then we started to date, but we ran in the same, you know, social for as long as I can remember. I mean, even it was pretty unique. Like when we separated, we still had many of the same friends we had in high school. Like we all lived in the same town, like, which was even harder, I think, as I think about coming out. That's harder because those people had an identity of who I was, right? Like I was living up to their expectation of who I was. And so in order to come out, I knew that I was going to have to break everyone's expectation of me.
Mhm.
So before you get to the actual coming out part, so on the day of your wedding, like, are
Mhm.
you having thoughts, on the wedding day and all that? Like,
No,
I'm not 100% in here. I still like
I
Leroy.
mean, probably, but I was very
Mm.
adamant that I was going to do what everyone expected me to do.
Yeah.
I was going to get married. I was going to be a successful businessman with a briefcase. I was going to have the house and the picket fence, and I was going to have the kids, and that was going to make me good enough in people's eyes, right? Like for a long time, it was about being good enough.
But were you pushing these thoughts down, or were you
Mhm.
literally not having these thoughts?
Oh, I was repressing. Yeah,
Right.
I
So
was.
you
I
would
was
you would
repressing.
have a thought, and you're like, "That's not me.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
it's the devil talking," or it's
not that it's not me. It can't be me. I cannot allow that to be me
yeah.
because in my mind, to allow that to be me meant I had to give everything else up. There was no duality in that. I could not be me and gay. I had to choose between the two.
I think you speak for a lot of people because people are this expectation that is put on us in our communities and our relationships that carries a lot of weight in people not coming out
Mhm.
because of what would grandpa think, even if he'd been
Mhm.
dead so many years, or what would my coworkers think, what would my friends think. And I have to do this stereotypical, okay, get married, white picket
Mhm.
fence, dog,
Right.
kids, all that. And you bring up a lot of good points. And for anybody out there that's struggling, the quote that got me to come out was Steve Jobs. Your time is limited. Stop living
Mm.
someone else's life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
very
one, what
powerful.
you said just kind of resonated. Took me
Yeah.
back. I mean, we all repress it. I mean, kids now are coming out younger and younger, and it's just kind of like, all right, what do you want for dinner? But in our time, in our era, totally different.
Yeah, and I loved my ex-wife. Like I loved her. I still love her to this day. I mean, we share children together. We talk multiple times a week. Like I still love her, and I did love her then. But I just was pushing down who I truly was. And like I said, we were friends long before we started to date each other, and I think that we connected on that level, obviously much more than the physical level, but we connected on the friendship level, and that, to me, I tried to make that enough for a long time. I tried to make that be enough, and it just isn't enough, or it wasn't for me. It wasn't enough.
Do you do you have friends, like, during the time that y'all were married, did you have gay friends or people that were
Mm-mm.
gay in your life? And then
No,
also, did did you or did she have conversations about, like, was there negative talk about, "Oh,
no,
the neighbors the neighbors."
not in our household, right? So we always we never talked that way. Now, in my family, yes, and the funny story. So like when after I came out to my parents, and my mom looked at me one day and she goes, "Oh my God, we used to make all those gay jokes," and I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you did," and I said, "Mom, and you know what? Every time you did, it pushed it a little further down." And I said, "I know that you weren't doing it on purpose, right? I know had you known you wouldn't have," because she was freaking out. But I said, every time you did, it just made it a little bit harder for me to say it out loud. And again,
Yeah.
my family is a loving family. My family is supportive, but they just didn't know any better. And I think that that's, I have to give them grace that they didn't know any better. And I'm hoping now in my life I'm teaching them
Mhm.
better. I'm showing them. We've had lots of conversations while Fox News is playing in the background, and my head swivels around like the Exorcist when they start talking about something, and I'm like, "Do you realize?" And they don't, and they don't. So that's been a pretty powerful thing that's come out of it.
Was there a moment that you remember where you're like, I can't do this anymore? Or was it a series? Like, when do you stop repressing it and start like accepting bits of it to get you to a point where you're like, I got to get out of this?
I was in my early 40s, so call it 5 years ago, probably. It had begun to, and people say this like a cancer, like it was cancerous, like it was literally eating me on the inside. And in the course of my professional career and life, I had met people, present company included, and I saw how they lived their lives. And I started traveling pretty extensively for work, and I began to see what life was like outside that small town, right? And I couldn't picture it before. And so I met some people, and I started to see how they lived their life, and it started to. I needed a push, and that was the push, that it can be okay. You can be happy. You can be successful. You will have friends, both straight and gay. Like, you're not going to be alone, and it will be okay. Because I think that was my biggest fear. And then I think eventually I just stopped caring what my parents thought. Now, again, they've been great, but I didn't know that. But I stopped caring whether or not I was going to embarrass them. And I swear, and I know it sounds crazy, but that was 50% of why I didn't come out.
Yeah.
Is I did not want to embarrass my parents.
Was there ever a point that you just wanted to live that status quo, status quo life, and say, hey, this is, God planned for me. I'm supposed to be married. I'm just going to suppress this for the rest of my life and just live this way?
Probably 18 of the 20 years that we were married. But and I had I have 3 beautiful kids who are all adults, and I never wanted to disappoint them, right? I never wanted for my life to challenge their life in any way, right? Like, to make it more difficult for them. But they grew up, as kids do, it happens, and moved on with their lives. And then it was that classic scenario, like my ex-wife and I are standing and looking at each other going, what do we do now? Right? Like, what do we? And it wasn't, let's go to the bedroom, because I didn't want to do that. So it was
like, I'm going to a gay bar.
Let's go play dominoes. I don't know, like and I think age, right? I think there comes a point in people's lives where you realize time is not unlimited, right? Like, you only have so much time. And I thought, I'm still young enough. I'm still, healthy. I felt like it was my last chance. Like, it was either I was going to do it now or I wasn't going to do it. And I was going to be a repressed 65-year-old angry person, because I had never lived the way I wanted to live.
So who'd you come out to first?
My ex-wife is who I came out to first. I had begun to see someone, which is not a PSA for having an affair, but this is the way it is, right? It's truth happens. I had begun to see someone.
How did you meet this person?
Online. And that person really was the one that showed me what it was like to be out, right? Like, I really got to see through his eyes, like, what that was like. I got to meet his friends. I met a couple. He has a couple, which you guys have met. You guys met them, and they're married to each other, and they each have 3 kids, and so they have 6 kids together. And I don't even know how that they survive the day. But I thought, and they were both married to women, and I was like, well, they did it, so why can't I do it? So I came out to my wife, and she at that point was suspecting. Like, it was the toxicity of our relationship, mainly because of that secret. I mean, every marriage has their issues, right? But that was a major one, clearly. And the toxicity of our relationship had started to sort of eat away at it, right? So things weren't great. But I told her, and then she promptly hung up on me. And then
so this is over the phone.
Yes, it was over the phone. Because I couldn't I couldn't do it face to face. It was still like I just needed to word vomit it out, and then it was out,
Mm-hmm.
and so and that was pretty. I call that the day that I took napalm to my life. Like I burnt everything to the ground and felt like I was standing there with the smoldering flames around me and didn't know where to go from there. So I told her. I told my mother next,
Is this all
and
within the same week,
same day.
same day?
So I don't do anything. I don't do anything soft. Like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. And we're gonna do it today.
And did you, with the words "I'm gay," or like, because I use, we use all these other ways of explaining it. Like,
yeah.
I just want to tell you that I do sometimes like to lay next to another person that has similar body parts than me. Like
Yeah,
you're gay.
anything but to say.
Yeah.
I didn't say those 2 words for 2 years.
Oh yeah,
after
that's
I
right.
Came out.
So you.
I mean, there's times that I still struggle to say it. I mean, like I'll hear myself say it, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's cool, that's fine. But no, I did. I just like exhaled. I'm gay, and then she was like, all right, well, click, and I said, okay, and she hangs up, and then there was a very dark day for me. I was sitting in a parking lot in Indianapolis, Indiana, of a Shell station, sobbing. I called another friend of mine and told her, and she's a psychologist. So like she's literally, I know her. She was on the other line trying to make sure that she could get some like suicide prevention person to that parking lot in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is not easy to do, by the way, when you don't know where someone is. Because she kept like asking me like, what's around you? And I'm like, what? That is not the point. Like, I don't care what's around me.
What color is the park bench?
Right. What's the zip code? And I was like, I don't know what the zip code is. And then I said, I'm going to call my mom. And I said, if she's okay, then I can be okay. And my mother didn't know, obviously looking back, like we've talked about it, that was a lot of pressure to put on someone on how they were going to react to what you were about to say. But I called her and I said, I got to tell you something. And I told her, and she said, that's fine. She said, it's fine. And then of course I couldn't even talk. I was sobbing so much. And I said, I need you and Dad to come here. And so they got in their car and drove 4.5 hours to Indianapolis, Indiana, and came to my apartment. And I just crumpled on the floor when my dad walked in, because I felt, dang it, I was not going to cry. I told you guys not to make me get teary-eyed, but
We got him.
I didn't know what else to do. And I just kept saying over and over, like, I'm still the same person. Like I'm still me. Like I'm still the same person. This doesn't make me different. And, my dad looked at me and he said, and my dad's very stoic, and you guys have never met him. Like he's a man of negative words. He has negative words in a day. Like he takes whatever he does say, puts it back in. He said, you spent your whole life trying to make us proud, and we never told you that we were proud of you, and we should have more, growing up. And I was like, then I started crying even more over tacos, because we'd ordered tacos at this point. And, my mom, I slept on the couch. I have a little 1-bedroom apartment for work, there. And my mom put me to bed on the couch with a blanket, and she sat at the end of the couch until I fell asleep. Wow. And then they drove me back home the next day. And then my world continued to burn, and it burned for a while. Then I had to tell my children, and to their credit,
stage, how old were the kids?
That my oldest is 20 and my youngest twins are 18.
And this is when you came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And do you sit them all down in the living room? Or are you doing a slideshow?
I did a Venn diagram and like
you ordered tacos, right? Because that's what you do.
I wanted to get anatomically correct, so I made sure that they understood what that meant. It actually was over the phone. Again, not my finest hour, but I had to tell them, right? And so, obviously they were way more upset that their mom and I were getting a divorce than they were that I was gay. And they've said that many, many times. Like, we don't care about that, and I take a little bit of pride in that we raised them in a way that's not even a thing to them.
Amazing.
Now, obviously, the divorce is hard on them, and they're still, they're still dealing with that, and kids deal with that forever. And that was a lot, I realized that, but it wasn't being gay. That wasn't what was upsetting to them. I'm sure it was a little shocking, but it wasn't upsetting to them.
So, and you talk about things continuing to burn. It sounds like it got bad. What does
It
that mean?
did.
Like, what is
Um,
how bad does it
I
get?
Yeah, I went into a deep spiral. My ex-wife was obviously very angry with rightfully so, like justified. So there was a lot of stuff coming at me from that way, right? You
Justin,
know,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is her family also like taking her side and
oh
like
yeah,
does her family know? And so the
yeah.
whole family is
The whole family and every friend,
In friend group, you have
minus
yeah.
every friend minus two that I had.
Wow.
There were two people that reached out to me during that time. And now, granted, the friends are mad that we're getting a divorce. Some of the friends don't believe that I'm gay to this day, think I'm going to become ungay. Like that's a thing. Like I'm just going to go.
Bill?
And I'm like, if I was just going to pick something to divorce her over, why would it be this?
that's
Like,
such a long game. Like, ouch. I'm gonna spend
right.
30 years being gay so I can marry another woman. Like, yeah.
Right. So they all disappeared. And I had heard that happened, and that was one of my biggest fears. Right. That was the biggest fear, is that people would just drop out of my life. And so they did. And I ended up in a mental health facility for 3 days. And I think that was that was the point that I looked around at the other patients that were in there with me, right? And I was like, you really don't have any problems. Like what you are so upset about compared to these people's lives is ridiculous. Like, put your big boy pants on, talk them into letting you out of here, and then get your life together. And it really did put it into perspective for me. And then I just kept saying, and I don't remember who said it to me, but they said, your world's on fire, but the fires will die down and you'll still be standing. And from the ashes, people will dust themselves off and be there with you. Because at that point, I couldn't see it.
In this moment, how would you tell someone to prepare for that? Or I don't think there is a way, let me put that out there. But it's like, what advice would you give to kind of maybe
I
help
think
prepare for that?
Well, to your point, I don't know that you can. Because I had run through those scenarios for 40 something years in my head about, so I don't know that you can really prepare for it. But what I would tell people is, even if you're like white knuckled, right? Like you're just gripping the sides of the chair as hard as you can, you just have to know that it will be okay. Time is so stupid, but time does heal most things. And you just have to give it time. And there are people out there to talk to. And I didn't know that at that point, right? Like I said, like if my mom had said something other than what she said on the phone that day, you wouldn't be talking to me, because I had prepared myself that if they reject me, I'm done, right? And by God's grace and my mother's wisdom, she didn't, and that's why I'm still here. And I think I didn't know anything about hotlines or all those things that are real and that people need to take advantage of. And maybe if I had, it would have been different. But you just have to grit your teeth. You have to grit your teeth and bear it, and know, like I said, at the end of the day, when the fires stop burning and the smoke clears, you're still going to be standing. And the landscape is going to look completely different.
It's getting through that. I heard this quote once: when one door closes, another one opens. We just don't know how long that hallway is going to be.
Correct.
That fire, you don't know how long it's going to just smolder and sit there until it's done.
Well, and to me, the visual is like, you have built this forest, right? You have planted these trees, you have nurtured these trees, you are standing in the middle of these trees, and then you just took a Molotov cocktail and threw it all over the trees, right? And so the trees burnt down, the trees smoked, the trees died down, and then it's all clear. Like, to me, that was like, everything is clear now. I have cleared those trees out of the way. And now I can plant new trees or different trees or gay trees or straight trees or whatever kind of trees.
You know, those rainbow trees we're pushing down.
They're out there grooming the forest.
Yeah.
I like that because I love being in nature and forest.
Uh-huh.
I like that. I go to Percy Warner a lot. You ever go?
You can use it. You can use it.
I
Just
will.
trademark. Just give me credit when you use
So,
it in the future.
You know what I've always said is
what about, so as the forest is burning and it's starting to
Yes.
calm down a bit, are you like daily reaching out to your wife, like, just talk to me? Like,
No.
what's that?
Mm-mm.
Did she block you?
We did not.
We didn't
speak for 6 months. We didn't, there was some, in the immediate aftermath, obviously there was some pretty rage texts flying around, but we did not speak to each other again for 6 months. And then we met and was something with the kids, and we saw each other again for the first time. And I was having dinner with my daughters, and I just said, do you want to eat with us? Right? Like, do you want to come? We were not speaking at that point. And I remember she sat in the car. We went into the restaurant and she sat in her car for probably 15 minutes. And then she came in, and then we literally sat down and had dinner. Like, not like nothing had ever happened, but the kids got up and went to whatever, some part of the restaurant. And I said, I know we have a long way to go, but this is really nice. And she said, it is, but we'll just take it one day at a time. And then, and then it just started the conversation started to happen, right? And then, last night I would talk to her for an hour about her current relationship situation. And I just said, sometimes this is weird. She was like, yeah, it is, but I don't know who else to talk to about. So I said, okay. But yeah, then
one or two ways, right? You're never going to talk, or you're going to be friends, and you're like, he's a great guy, date him. Like be those friends.
Yeah, I did. I went to for something for my kids, and I was staying at our old house, and she wasn't going to be there, and I said, I'll just sleep in the guest room. She said, you can sleep in our old room. And I was like, I don't think I want to sleep in the bed again. Like, no thanks. But
the door.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be, for us anyway, as we've said, we were we have been in each other's life for 23 years, 4 years, 5 years. Like, that doesn't just go away. You can't just throw that away. You can be angry. There's hurt, clearly, but the 24 years just doesn't disappear.
So for context of time, you didn't talk for 6 months. So how long has it been since you've been talking?
We have been talking for 4 or 5 months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're coming up on a year.
Yeah. Yes, coming up on a year.
So exciting part. She's dating. You're dating. Does she ask about your dating life?
She does. She's much more open about it than I am. Like, I'm not, mainly because I'm mine is so chaotic that I, whatever. But she does ask, and I'll give her little nuggets, but I don't share that with a lot of people, though. I think there are some things that, that's between me and whoever I'm seeing, right? And I still feel weird about it in some ways. And what's interesting is the person that she is dating, I knew when I was 5 years old. He's also from Lawrenceburg, Philip. I'm not going to say names. We're not saying names. But
what does his name rhyme with?
So I've known him since I was 5, right? And so I know this guy. I know he's a good guy. And I said that, that sort of makes it a little easier, right? Like, I know he's not a bad dude. And I said, if this was some rando off the street, I'd have a lot more to say than I do about, who you're dating.
But I wonder, and no one asked me for my opinion on this, but I'm going to give it. I wonder if you don't talk about it because there's still some shame, or maybe even internalized homophobia. And I went through that, where people be like, you don't talk about your relationship. I'm like, oh, what there is to talk about? Like, I'm a private person. Like, but ultimately it was, I'm afraid to give too much information away because you've just found out, and I know you're going to judge, and I don't want to be judged anymore. So we do these things where we're like, yeah, I just keep myself private. And
I think it has to do with vulnerability, right? Like, I think that I am naturally not a person that's very comfortable being vulnerable, right? So I think that talking about my relationships, or again, there are spaces where I will hear myself say that I'm gay, and I think it was somebody else that said it next to me, and I'm looking around, it was like, oh, that was me. I said that. That's me. So yeah, you may be right. I think that, and I was telling my ex-wife this last night. Like, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. Like, I am not the person that I was before. Obviously, there are pieces of that, right? Pieces of me that are still there, but there's a lot of things that aren't the same. And so I sort of feel like a baby deer trying to get their legs underneath them and navigate all of this. And it's not easy. It's a lot going on out there in the world after you come out.
A lot of nature references.
There's a lot of trees. There are a lot of young growing trees out there in the world.
With your kids, did they deal with it? I'm trying to think how to say this, like a death, because I think when people, we've had transgender people on, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't have a son anymore. I have a daughter. Okay, my dad's not with my mom. He's with a guy. Have you processed, or you said they're good with it? How are they doing?
I think they are doing okay. Actually, my son and I just had a conversation yesterday. I have a friend that's going to come visit me here, and my 20-year-old just moved in with me temporarily in between places. And I said, how do you feel about that? And he said, I don't care. He said, mom's dating. Why shouldn't you be dating? Like, I don't, I don't care. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I just, want to make sure you're comfortable. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Like, he's still going to come, but you might have to spend the night somewhere else. But he was like, no, I'm good. And so, in reality, I'm a dad. I know they're probably not as good as they say they are, sure, right? But as long as the door is open and they know that they can talk to me, and I said very early on in this, I will answer whatever you want to know. Whatever question you want to know, I will answer it. And I said, if I can. And my son, in his 20-year-old wisdom, was like, I bet there are things that you don't know the answer to. And I said, I don't. And I get questioned. I get interrogated a lot about why did you get married? Like, what, and that's hard to answer, because I was in love, but I was confused. I didn't know what that meant, really. And why did you stay married? Well, I came from divorce, right? Like, I didn't want to be divorced. I didn't want my kids to grow up in that. I didn't, I wanted my family to be proud. I was always trying. I was the oldest kid. I was always trying to prove that I was, bigger, smarter, faster than everybody else. And that was, it was a weakness to me for a long time, until I gave in to the weakness, I guess.
Do you catch yourself like editing what you do or say in front of the kids to make sure it's not too gay? I know that sounds kind of weird. Like,
no,
like, I remember I would like catch myself like sitting a certain way, or like hand on my hip or something, like fix that. Like,
yeah.
Do you catch yourself doing that, or you're like,
I think that's an old habit. Like, yes, I can my whole life, like, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Or, walk. Don't make your wrists. Don't let your wrists be too.
Use your
don't let your wrists be too floppy, right? Like, I spent my whole life doing that. Yeah, and I don't think I edit my like body movements as much anymore. But like, there are certainly things, that I think about. Like, a friend of mine in Indianapolis has these really cool pencil sketches of men, right, in his house, and they're really cool, and I won't ever have those in my house yet, because of my kids, right? Like, I just think it would make them feel. No, I wouldn't have naked women up there either, so there's an equal opportunity. Not but
art style.
Yeah.
It's funny, in high school, I'll never forget. It was in.
Oh God, I get so nervous.
Here's
it's either a deer reference or something about a tree.
I have a story to greatest story you've ever heard. I was in
Oh, don't do the hands like, oh my gosh, okay.
I had the horticulture class. I won the Horticulturist of the Year award in 1999.
God,
And
there was no other horticulturalist.
No,
You were the
You
only
live
in the U.S.
no, in my high school in the class.
Oh,
it was Illinois. There were 4
Was that-
people in the class. So like, you know, you right, yeah.
So I was there and I was in the class. My friend Kyle was sitting next to me, and for those of you watching on YouTube, I did this. I did the limp wrist. I said, "No, we don't have to do that." And he's like, "Oh my God, you're gay." I've never forgot. Now I forgot. I was just telling Philip earlier. I forgot where I parked my car the other day. I have not forgot those moments that you don't forget. Of okay, don't hold your pinky up. Okay, okay, your hand can't be that high on your hip.
Right.
And then you got to be like flexing. But I'll never forget that moment. Thank you, Kyle.
You can't have too much of a sachet when you walk, as we say in the South, right? You got to walk. You have to walk very. What am I trying to say?
straight.
Gorilla like straight arm. You know.
I'll throw y'all for another loop. Here's the thing.
What was the first loop?
The
Horticultural.
I'm gay.
Horticulturist of the year. Was the
Yeah,
first loop.
that's a loop.
Now you know, for those of us that are more masculine, you have to have a little pep in your step to let people know you're gay. You know, see,
Wes,
I'm so far masculine.
I'm gonna throw this out there. You are the gayest person I have ever met. You are gayer than
No, but I have to because
you don't have to.
Yeah, I do.
You don't have to.
No one thinks you're straight.
You don't have to.
More people thought you were
right.
straight.
You just have to whip out that list of beard jokes that we had the other day.
Yes.
You have to fill Philip in. You missed that, Philip.
Yeah,
we Googled pickup lines for beards.
Mm.
We'll edit this part out. But sometimes if you're in a room and you just got to let people know, for those of us that are like, because when I play pickleball, everybody thinks I'm with Stacia. They're like,
but why do you have to
"Whoa."
let them know?
Well, because I want to attract.
Because they might be single.
Yeah.
So how do you do it?
Because if they think it might be like how I stand, but it's not too gay.
He has a necklace on that says "I'm gay," and he just untucks his chain and just lays it out.
So
you're in your mind, you're so masculine that you have to show the world. You have to tease the world a little bit by giving us just a little gay, and you choose how much gay you show us.
He just gives him a little bit, and then he takes it right back. Like he gets a little shoulder, and then he puts it back in.
Yeah. This is an educational podcast, but I started wearing I started wearing the Love Wins shirt, and this guy, the best part, this guy come up to me. He's like, "I like wings too." He thought it said love like chicken wings, and I'm like, "Love wins," because it was cursive, and I'm like, "And it's rainbow." Stacia made me start wearing that shirt because people thought we were together, and she was trying to find a guy, and I'm playing pickleball to try to get a date. Doesn't happen. I've been playing for a year.
Has the pickleball dating scene picked up? I didn't know it was.
Justin is a hell of a pickleball player.
I was the pickleball champion of 1990 something in high school.
There's a lot of champions on here. We've got a horticultural champion. We've got a pickleball champion.
And Philip is a sheep shearing champion. 1990.
Sheep shearing.
Yeah,
so you sheared the sheep the fastest.
You're good. You're really quick.
I mean, context clues, right? Yeah, I got it.
All right. So
back to our guest.
Yeah, yes. I think we went off rails. I got distracted by Wes having to show us that he was gay. So what would you say you did right? And what would you say you did wrong? If you were like doing a quick TED talk on like the whole burning the forest, building the forest again, Great Year, Lawrenceburg, all that. What do you think you did well in the whole situation? And then what do you wish you'd done differently or better?
Oh, well, clearly I wish that I had told my wife before I had hurt her in that way, right? Clearly, hands down, full stop, that I would change that in a heartbeat. I don't know that I would change the way that I did it. The burning of the forest. I think if I had tried to do it a little bit at a time, I would have gotten scared and ran right back in the closet. Right. I think the only way that I could do it was to do it all at the same time. Right. What did I do well? I think that I have been 100% honest after that. And I think that that has been the freedom that comes with being 100% honest with everybody about everything, right? Is not anything I ever knew in my entire life. I never knew, because there was even if I was being honest about everything else in my life, there was that secret that I kept, and the freedom that you will have. And I would tell that to anybody. I know there are people sitting out there listening to this podcast, 4 of them, 5, the one in Ireland, but the
6.
yeah, 6. If you are sitting there and you are scared and you don't know what would happen, the freedom of being honest is worth it. You will appreciate being able to live your life for yourself, and you will be a different person. And that's my ex-wife and I will talk about that. Like, she says, you're different. And I said, I'm me. Like, I'm not hiding anything. The stress and the struggle and the it's not eating me alive anymore. And that's just, that's hard to say, because you don't know nobody knows what that's like until you feel it, until you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
What about, go ahead, Ben.
No, I want to compliment you on being so open with your kids too, and having that open door. So many of us were raised in our generation here. Well, just, that
Don't talk
Miranda
about it at
Lambert song,
Thanksgiving.
Mama's Broken Heart.
Yeah.
Just
Take it 100%.
Pop your pills, but push that under the rug, because we got to look good at church.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. I was talking to my dad a couple of days ago, and we were reminiscing. It was after my aunt passed. In the South, you get together over a casserole and you tell every story that's ever happened in the entire family history, right? And so we were talking about my biological mom and his divorce, and it was when I was very young. And I was like, well, what, and I had just gone through it, and I was like, what was that like? He's like, we didn't have anything to fight for, so we just signed the papers. And I'm like, hello, I was 4. He goes, okay, I guess we did have a kid. But that's the kind of thing, like, you don't talk about it. Like, you don't, you don't talk about it. I didn't want to raise my kids that way. And I felt like they deserved, and they still deserve, and they will deserve till I'm dead, for me to be honest with them from here on out. Right. And so if they have a question, I will answer it to the best of my ability, if I can. And there are some questions that maybe I can't answer because I don't know myself,
and that's an open dialogue for y'all to work through together, which builds that relationship. And that
also, and I will give therapy a plug, because the minute that I got out of the mental health facility, I ran to a therapist's office, and I have religiously gone to a therapist since. And she has been really instrumental in helping me see a different perspective. Right. And one of the things that I struggled pretty hard with was our friend group, that, I felt like I had curated those relationships for 30 years, right? Like, I had known these people since I was 15 years old. And, obviously they had their reasons, and some of them have reached back out. Some of them still haven't. I still haven't spoken to them. And so I was dealing with a lot of anger towards them, because I felt, even though I had made a mistake in my marriage, I didn't make mistakes in my friendships. And I felt very abandoned by them.
For those that have reached out, what was that conversation like? If you can share that.
Both of them, the ones that it's more than 2, probably 3 or 4. It was a strictly, I love you, and I'm still your friend. And then we just picked up where we left off, and that was all it took. And I've said, like, if you want to be mad at me, if you want to yell at me, or whatever, get it out of your system. Like, I can take it, I can handle it at this point, right? And then let's move on, because what's done is done. And that one little snippet of a mistake doesn't erase 20 or 30 years of friendship, or it shouldn't. And there are people, the state in which we live, and I have a couple of friends that have very small worlds, right? Very small, close-knit world that can't accept me for being gay. The one that thinks I'm going to suddenly become ungay, or that I'm lying to myself, or that I'm whatever. And I'm like, I promise you, I would pick a better lie. If I was going to lie to myself about something, it wouldn't be this.
Yeah, this is a big lie to live.
Right.
I think anybody that comes out, especially later, you've already developed a significant amount of relationships, you know, and when you tell somebody, I'm not who I say I am somebody completely different.
Yeah.
What me as the person saying it, what I'm thinking is I'm finally free. I'm finally at peace. I can be myself. I think what they hear is the whole relationship that we had was a lie.
Yeah.
Never honest with me. And so that initial anger is expected.
Yeah.
Like I'd be shocked if I told 30 friends I was gay and they were like, perfect, let's go.
Let's go out. Right.
I would hope that they, that they would have an honest reaction, which might be,
right,
can't talk to you anymore. And then after a week or two or a month or two or a year or two, things happen. They see that you're the same, that things happen in their life. And for the most part, people are like, fine.
Yeah.
How does this affect me? You want to date somebody, a man? Fine, go date a man.
Right. I think that one of the things that I struggled with, and again, therapy helped me to let this go, is I felt like they owed it to say it to my face to me. Like, if you can't accept me for being gay, you at least owe me the dignity of telling me that, right? Rather than just disappearing. But that is me trying to control a situation that I don't have any control over, right? I only control myself. It's what do you say? It's not my problem. That's not my problem. Whether that they cannot say it to my face is not my problem. And I'm going to live my life the way that I am meant to live my life. And that's not my problem.
Yeah. But I mean, and you didn't tell your wife to her face. So it's like, it's hard to hold people to a standard,
right,
that we're not willing to do either.
Yeah.
So
I take a phone call. They can tell me over the phone. They don't have to stand in my face and say it, but something rather than avoid of nothing. Right. Yeah.
And I think to let people know that are listening, if they're in this situation, or you think you know someone in this situation, there is a community there. There are those people that will never talk to you again. There are those people that are going to be like, great, you're gay. There's a drag show at 2, and what's for dinner? And there's people, it's like, okay, let's sit down and process it. So the It Gets Better campaign, it does. And
it does. And I those people that you described, I experienced every single one of those stereotypes. When I had one that was like, we're going downtown, let's go, get in the car, and I had one, I've had a few that were like, it's great, okay, that's fine, and I've obviously had the ones that ghosted me or that said they couldn't talk to me, and what I would tell other people is that is a moment in time. You only have to say that once, right? And then you go on living your life. And to what Philip said earlier, the ones that matter will stick around, or they'll come back around. They may not initially stick, right? Like, they may not stick from the beginning, but if your friendship is as strong as you think it is, and the love between the two people is as strong as you think it is, they will come back around. And if they don't, it's not your problem.
So
yeah. And just because it's a priority to you, like today I'm going to come out to Wes. And if Wes doesn't make it a priority, that doesn't mean it's not important. It's just not something.
Right.
It's just different. Like, he's dealing with something else, or he needs to process it, or maybe he needs here to be away from me, for him to realize.
I think when people come out, there's such, at least for me, like, it was that vulnerability, like, I'm being vulnerable, don't let me down. Right? Like, don't handle this the wrong way. And that is such an unfair thing to do to your friends, right? That you're giving them information that they didn't know, right? And to put that pressure on them to react in a certain way is unfair. It's unfair. And I didn't see that then. I mean, this is therapy later. I see it now, but it's unfair. And they have a right to have feelings about it too.
Yeah. And also remember, the point of coming out is to not get an expected reaction. I'm not coming out to Wes so that he has to say out loud that he supports me.
Right.
The point of coming out is so that I can free myself of all that stuff. So
the burden.
That's what you got to remember. Coming out is about letting yourself be free, it doesn't. I hate if it's a bad reaction, but
Yeah.
I have no control over that. It's not my
Right.
problem that you've decided to act cray cray about the fact that I want to date a man.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine.
That
Go have a
doesn't
reaction,
affect
have a
you.
hissy fit, boo boo.
Mhm.
But that's not, I can't be bothered by it.
Right. That's your problem.
And Anne Marie Zanzel, we had her on a few years ago, and she's like, it's really not coming out. You're letting people in and getting, yes, Anne Marie, shout out.
Thank you.
Political.
Amen.
Amen.
And that is, and we make these rash decisions. You talk about sitting in your car in a parking lot, and you're like, what is my life? I moved here and lived in a garage for 2 years because I didn't have money. I thought of that every day.
Right.
Thought of that every day. And that was still years after I came out of what is there left. And now look at the friendships, look at life. And
Look at you're sitting in a podcast studio thriving.
Yes.
Yep, coming out because no one knows.
Show us. Show us how gay you are.
Boom.
There you go. There you
Things
go.
like that.
Yeah.
It's really the angle there is really great. The lighting. But
Okay.
it is, you look at you have those dark moments, but then you're like, there's this whole path out there. These people can sit over here and talk about whatever, but I'm going to go out. I'm going to make friends. I'm going to do good at work. I want to just build a great life. And that's another former guest said 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
1% better every day. Because I think we're like, all right, we're out. And I got to tell everybody. I got to call my classmates from high school, my college buddies, my friends. No, it's one step at a time.
One step at a time. And I had that conversation with someone when I don't remember what point in the coming out phase it was, but I said, I don't know how to tell this particular person. It was a work person. And they said, it'll just come up. You'll know when it's right. Like, stop putting pressure on yourself that, you have to tell everyone now, right? You don't. It'll naturally come up. And when the time is right, you'll know. And it will not be forced, and it won't be a production, and it won't be all these, these things that it is. But then, and I just tell people, be easy on yourself. Give yourself grace, because you're going to go out into the world and you're going to do some stupid stuff, right? And you're going to be really hard on yourself, and you're going to, all the things. But you just need to give yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. It's a change. You're not going through the change of life, but you are going through a change in your life. And with that, be kind to other people and to yourself.
Amen.
And with that,
okay,
MAGA, make America gay again.
God.
Well, I had that shirt. Remember, I'd wear that Philip down on. I would.
Sometimes the accent, I just don't know where it comes
I
from.
mean, was that on purpose?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's all
He shows us he's country too.
Yes.
Well, we are in the South.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
my God.
Well,
this is amazing.
I really appreciate your time, Justin.
Yeah,
talking about
thanks,
this. I know it can be uncomfortable. I have one question, a serious question. I know you're not being vulnerable, but who would you say is your favorite host on Two Bottles Deep?
Well, I mean, we have the Lawrenceburg connection. I've known Wes longer, but we have the Lawrenceburg connection. So,
ladies and gentlemen,
damn rednecks down there,
right?
Isn't that where they have the Donkey Fest?
No, that's Columbia.
Oh,
that's the Mule Queen. They have Mule Days.
Mule Day,
and they have a Mule Queen.
God, I wish I was from there.
Can you imagine being Mule Queen?
I knew a mule, an actual young lady
you would
that was
scream out of a car, like going on, "You Mule Queen!"
I mean, listen. It is. It is. Well, in some of those, it's crazy.
I've been once. I didn't know mules.
People
were
take their folding chairs early in the morning to be front row to see the mules.
Yes, paraded through the square of Columbia.
Look at that one. That's a strong mule right there. Oh, here's another one. That's even stronger.
Look at the haunches on that one. Right?
Like, is there a gay bar here? Is there a gay bar in Lawrenceburg?
Oh God, no! The Brass Lantern was secretly gay.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to start any rumors.
Let's go to lunch.
You go to
all right. Right. Let's go to lunch. I'm sure they have a drag show. Well, we do appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Justin.
Yes. Thanks for having me. It was great. Philip, you owe me a drink for the favorite podcast host.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I got you.
Checks
You
in
do
the
water
mail.
still, right?
Yeah, water, strictly water, straight water.
Yeah, straight water.
No olives in that martini.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much, Justin. I look up to you so much. And
Oh, I appreciate
you're
that.
taller than me. And I really do respect you. I really do. Joking aside.
Well, thank you.
You're the best.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. We hope you have a good week. If you've got any questions or comments, please reach out to us at twobottlesdeep@gmail.com. Wes, I hope you have a good week. And you know what? Show somebody you're gay this week. Just give them a little tease, do your little pink.
Just a little tease.
Yeah.
Just keep everybody on their toes.
All right, babe. Love you.
Love
All
you.
right.
Bye.
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 Episode of Two Bottles Deep. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a crazy show idea, email us at twobottlesdeep@gmail.com or hit us up on the old Instagram.
And we really do appreciate you listening to today's show. And when you get the chance, go back and listen to our other episodes, because Lord knows you have nothing better to do. Got him.